additions? Like when
she was white. You didn't tell me.
processes.
So these are some of the examples. So Yeah, HOT through the regional hubs is actually launching a global worldwide cities and climate program that is geared towards creating free and openly accessible map data for cities and urban areas, critical to strengthening their ability to actually adapt to climate change while also optimizing related systems and services. So what we are advocating for is, we know we are supposed to, HOT through the regional hubs is actually launching a global worldwide cities and climate program that is geared towards creating free and openly accessible map
impacts towards the issue of climatic resilience. Yeah, so briefly, we are almost having like more than 8 experience working with the spatial related activities, and this was actually on our country, and some of the engagements that we have been involved in was like a set any activity that was only open data or manual. This was actually a project that was under HOP engagement in busy, and actually the issue is or the mostly of the challenge is lack of measures that either local government or the institutions unable to use to create or decide on the work as to be done mostly of the areas that have been affected with the flooding, as well as any of the disasters that are actually available in our cities. Therefore, due to the lack of reliable data, we are actively involved with local individuals or the local people who were actively available to the areas that are mostly affected by the flooding and the other associated disasters to create the reliable information that are related with flooding by showing the situation or existing situation having having like whether the individuals affected with the flooding, as well as the non there is some idea of the impacts that they have been affected in these areas. So by involving these local people who are living in these flood-prone areas, we have ended up with creating an efficiency informations or that have been also been integrated with some of the international organization to deploy the strategic objectives on either to evacuate the people who were actually living in these affected areas, as well as starting to construct the infrastructures that have been mostly affected by the rains, but also these local individuals are able to create their own maps by identifying the assets and threats that were actually located in the areas, and they also able to map the evacuation points and the evacuation routes, and so they are having like a potential information that will help them will never happen any kind of natural disaster in the areas, but also in the association with the other international organizations like Red Cross, they are able to create or to develop disaster risk structure at the level of the words, and this also consists with most of the people who are actively living into those prone areas. So that is one of the cases that were actively involved in local communities that are living in those prone areas, but also able to identify and map the areas mostly affected by the flooding, and the impact is they own those data and maps that have been printed, and they also been attached in their widest offices. And they also some of the international organizations like the Red Cross are still using this information to decide the reliable decision making to these specific areas. And if there's certainly use case that also we have engaged it as OpenStreetMap as well as HOT. We have also created the multi-disaster model, and this we were actively involved by identifying and collecting the information of the vehicles involved in the spatial location of the certain houses, as well as the other associated informations. And this was also done and by involving the local government and specifically the ministry and the department that is responsible. That is only disaster management department. And after having the model of technology, multi-disaster model, they are also able to create some kind of the replacement cost as if or wherever any kind of the disaster happens. It is easy to know the estimation of the cost that somebody has to be accompanied, as well as the data has also used it to create the country level disaster model. And the project is called India, and I'm sure it has been replicated to other areas that has been also affected with most of the disaster in Africa and the other areas of the world. So this is two use cases, though we have more than two cases. But most of the issue that is still existing is we're having some data that is also the lab is also needed to be updated yearly. But the people who are actually being involved in the data deciding what they have to be done in these areas are actually being slowing to decide the actual implementation of this recommendations. So I have also decided to share on this to engagement from what, though we have more than this, and this in our website if possible. That is only to see the for the Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mani. Ben, do you have anything?
I can add something, yeah. Maybe one short project we are doing together with the German Red Cross. You also mentioned Red Cross is involved a lot also in anticipatory action. And so 2 projects where we worked on, one was in South Sudan, the other in Somaliland. And when it comes to anticipatory action, it's also about defining the triggers, right? So when do you actually start to act anticipatory? So you need the open mapping data, so that's base mapping, buildings, roads, infrastructure, assets. But you also need the risk models that you often mentioned flooding, but there's also drought, maybe also as well connected to El Niño this year. So bringing these 2 things together, so the open mapping, the risk models, trying to define the triggers. That was a project we did together with the German Red Cross, and they partner with the local Red Cross. So that actually was a quite nice experience for us. So trying to develop the GIS workflows, doing workshop with the local Red Cross groups to train them, to collect the data, to run the analysis on their own, to really build capacity. So this is something that is really promising, I guess. It's still also a challenge, right, to really build capacity that data is collected in time, not when it's too late, and also that the analysis can happen with the local Red Cross. So we try to build tools around that, plugins for QGIS, training material, go there to offer in-person workshops, but it's a long journey.
So I think I'm going to start with you again then, and I like the point you mentioned about the use case. You mentioned is floating, and then you mentioned floating. But like you mentioned that other use cases as well as the drugs, as they have mentioned, as to eat. So I think I want to hear from your experiences. What are the other data sets you think that we can be collecting to also kind of address these other climate issues, droughts, eat, air pollution, and all of us? I'll start with you then.
Nice, I can start. I use it as an advertisement for a session we'll have after lunch. So what is, I think, also super useful to collect, maybe something which can't go easily into OpenStreetMap, is how the local communities perceive the risk of a disaster, of a flood. And this is something you can do with the sketch map tool. So a field mapping approach with pen and paper, you print out maps and let the community discuss what is the most affected areas, or what do they think is the most affected areas. I think so. We had this very nice cartoon, I would say, about should we like fix the tap or like just clean the floor, right? And I think this, if you start with a perception, how are disasters perceived? I think you're closer to fixing the tap. So I think that is super important data, which I think most of you collect or try to collect, but probably not in all of the projects. So I think I would advertise for that.
Janet?
For the same question, okay. On my side, I'll say data that we need to ensure that we are climate resilient, then this data should open, maybe anyone can accept them so that we bring impacts in our society. The first one, I should say, is like climatic data that will be involving maybe disaster history, maybe about a particular area and what are the future prediction about it, and something like that. But the second thing that we need to be open is, or we should be collecting to upload them in OpenStreetMap and other platforms, open platforms. It's about elevation data or elevation models that explains this area is most affected, and this one is less affected by floodings. Also, we should have open data that shows this is maybe for other disasters more than the climate thing, maybe earthquake zones, landslides, that would be helping others to make sure that they're not going to that particular area where the disaster is coming, or they don't have to start settlements near those areas. The other area is maybe demographic data or socioeconomic data that will determine the planning system and the planning and the preparedness for that particular disaster maybe has happened in the community. And the other thing is, I can say it's ecological data, because ecology is one of the things that will be helping us, or is helping us to be more climatic resilience. Especially, we should be collecting maybe trees that are being planted in a particular area, maybe the land cover maps that should be available in a particular area, and what we should do more to make sure that we are more climatic resilient. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think she has mentioned a lot of data that actually for us is not what we can do, but at FAO Somalia we are doing that. We are doing a lot of work around the land cover mapping, agricultural mass mapping. This one now in conjunction with the data we get from the open source, that is building roads, infrastructure. We put this together and create risk models like, let's say, it's easier to capture, for example, riverine flooding because you can track it. But what about flash floods? It's difficult to capture that. So what we do is that now we create flash flood risk areas, what actually she was mentioned. So that's what we're doing. So we can be able to, so let's say, okay, this area are likely to be hit by flash flood, and using now the historical data of that area as shared by communities. And actually, I think I like what you said, because we have heard about the project that is going on in Somaliland, and we are looking actually forward to that data to improve our flash flood risk model. So with that, we can now be able to project the potential impact. So what we do is that we don't just respond, we walk along the whole path of climate resilience and community adaptation to this kind of events. So we do find the potential impact. We see how many billions are likely to be imitated. We look at how many roads will be possible when this disaster happens. We are looking at how many people will be displaced. We are also looking at agriculture, and that this we are looking about livelihood now, because if this thing happens, it has a ripple effect there, in the sense that people will not have food to eat, because all their crop, whether at any either stage, it will be destroyed. If they plant it, be washed away. If it's almost to be harvested, it will be washed away. So that's where now we go ahead and give advisories and say, okay, this disaster is coming according to what the parameters our team is looking at, and these are potential people will be affected. This is the area that will be highly affected. So please harvest your crop early enough. We have also provided areas where we have higher areas to conflict in cases of flood, and in cases of it's like, for example, drought, we have livelihood interventions that will come with the community. So that's the initial. Now the middle part is that when the disaster now hits, what do we do as a FAO Somalia? So we monitor that flood or disaster. It can be a flood or a drought, of which, like for example, a drought, we have a whole model that can be able to use 3 indices to be able to say which area is being affected. That is precipitation. We are looking at the issues of vegetation, soil moisture, and then combined, we can be able to know which is being affected. So with that, we can be able to tell that, okay, at this point, this number of people are being affected, and then our counterpart unit, like let's say agriculture or livestock, they will come in with now intervention, let's say cash transfer to cushion communities that have been affected. So what I want you to see is the journey in which data is important, and more so with the incoming of this powerful tool in the open mapping is going to be even more powerful, because now we need data on timely basis, not yesterday. So today, so that we respond. And then lastly, at the end of the disaster, what do? We don't move away. We have to look at now the issue of recovery, and that's what we are talking about, adaptation. How are these communities adapting to this disaster after they happen? Okay, so we have to look at the whole spectrum of a disaster in terms of the potential impact, the impact, and the adaptation part of community. But just to add on that, lastly, that's the very last. Maybe we are talking a lot about the issue of the map itself, mapping, but maybe we need to also add our voice in this issue of climate finance. Don't you think so? Because if you look at even the SDG 13, which calls action to climate response, and then you look at the evolution of the COPs. Right now, COP28 is happening, but if you look at, let's say, COP21 in 2015, the Paris Agreement, which now called the developing country, please give more money to less developing so that they can be able to respond to this. And then you come down to currently, which they are doing about now, allocating more or making faster the deployment of climate financing assets to be able to respond. So each time, this thing keeps coming up. So as mapping community, how is it affecting? Because however much we speak in such forum, with no financing, there's very little we can do in terms of reaching the first, who are the first line of this. So I think we should raise our voice also to people concerned to be able to channel more resources towards the open map, because this data is freely available, but it's very crucial because it's helping community in terms of resilience and adaptation to existing disasters. So I think that's a subject that I think we need to have.
Yeah, I think I have one question for you. You mentioned recovery, and I want to learn, maybe from your experience, how do you track, how do you track the impact of that? Like, how are you able to tell how communities are recovering from climate or like from disaster? Is this something you've done in the past I can share about, or is this something that's just new and you want to maybe start implementing?
So maybe to mention in this discussion is that we do not work in isolation as an organization, but we are working for the government of Somalia. And there are systems on the ground, social systems on the ground, through government, NGOs, which can be able to do that. And we are not the only agency in, for example, Somalia. We have several others with different mandates. So for us, for example, as a Swahili, we provide very crucial data that respondents we rely on to know in an anticipatory way, we know El Nino is going to come. How many people are likely? So from our last projection, we saw that it was around 1.2 million that were likely to have that. So using that information, this organization who are just now interfacing with the community, and part of our team, our unit are also interfacing with it, like let's say agriculture, we're talking about livestock unit. That are actually is not just about prediction, but our data is being used internally also for the resilient team to be able to, let's say, along the river, to build embankments to prevent, to reduce or mitigate the impact of this flood. And using the data that we do river leakage analysis, so in terms of measuring how the communities, for example, are recovering, I think it has answered, because now you see we already have that interface with the community themselves, and then we have a way of relaying information to the down there through SMSs, through a one warning system, and then we have a whole FAO communication team that deals with that. Okay. Yeah.
I think so. The next question I want to ask, I think, is also based off of what Michael said, but I think I would like Mane to respond to it first. So you mentioned something about climate financing and how more resources should be provided to open mapping ecosystem and communities. But then I want to ask, because you've also mentioned how timely data is very important, and I want to now ask, do you think the current way that we contribute data is enough, based on the fact that we also need timely data? Like how can we do you think it's a finance thing, like we need more money to be able to make this data timely, or how do you think we can improve on the way the data is right now to be able to support the timely data that we've mentioned? How do you think that can work?
Yeah, I think it for the issue of the having more OSM data, but still we also are enforcing or maybe some kind of more stuff, more results. And I think the issue is the most of the data is actually calculated. They are related with the time as well as a year that the information has been collected. Therefore, it is so potential to have more bodies that way they are actually directing or having ability to improve or modify some kind of additional information that are relating with the already existing data at our OSM. But are also trying to add some kind of the formats that are really acceptable to the OSM. As we know, mostly of the data like landslide informations or rock falling in the mostly in the areas that are being identified in our region. Not even here after the OSM, we are still struggling to add some kind of informations that are related with the mostly of the prone disasters that might happen in any case. So, at the end, I will also be recommending before updating or collecting any kind of information to gather the mostly of the actors that are reliable information that will be collected related to the climatic and related actions. And at the end, I think there are also some of the information that already been collected or added at the OSM, but still some people don't even know where this information actually being added or saved. So we needed to also to add some kind of education in relation with the organization of the already existing person data, as well as how they can actually integrate the information into the daily activities. And this is straight this is straight to the mostly of the authorities that they actually being involved in the implementation of the various of the issues or decisions that are affecting the mostly of this local communities. So we are still in need of adding more resources and more funds so as to improve that will be more consistent for the person.
Thank you, Ben. Okay.
Yes.
I guess I get the question right. Like to add more on more timely data on our side, on our organization, we do currently mapping campaigns about using our tasking manager for the mapping of flood vulnerable communities. Then over Tanzania, and the challenge that we have been facing, most of the peoples don't have can say internet access, or yes, that's a challenge that we are facing because we have more mappers in Tanzania, but they can't participate in that particular campaign to make sure that we have that data at the particular time, because even the validators have been played a role to make sure that those data are very accurate, to make sure that when the disaster occurs maybe in the near future, like this data will be like more like currently like that can be helping about that particular time. So to make sure that we mobilize more mappers to that particular time, we do have that challenge. The winner will be like giving maybe a certain prize for us. For yes, we're just trying our best. Remember our first project, we almost had few mappers involved, and only 3 people that won that particular project were being like given the money to make sure that the access internet are effectively to make sure that they do more mapping. And the second project, we had a lot of people involved in that particular time. So finances at that particular time can also accelerate that OpenStreetMap will be to have a more timely data for the disaster responses and for resilience.
Yeah, just to respond to the extended question, I was let me just demonstrate how financing is involved is for us. Do you know that today we have the ability, is an ability to task a satellite to a certain area? You just need to have some money. And then you can tell that we need 24 hours turn your satellite to look at this side so that I get that down very well. And I have a 24-hour image. So what I'm asking is, what is the use of having so many volunteers mapping on 2 year or 3 year ago data? Then we might have time with that data, but we don't have up-to-date data. I see. If you come, we talk about, let's say, community, building communities that we are building. For example, OSM, I've seen people's network. Those communities require kind of resources to bring them together. We're talking about the issue of let's say, dedicated mappers who are always monitoring. And also, maybe we need also to look at the debate of AI. Yeah, yes. In making this time that available, but of course, from what we know, there's a big debate going around the ethical issues around that. But I think from the GIS perspective, we can go to that level, let's say, automatic classification, so that we don't go into waiting that we can include the web as a bit settled in that area. But that one will help. But of course, maybe there are fears that it will replace a human capital. But I don't think so. I don't think so. Because eventually, if we need quality data, we will have someone to look at that. We will have someone to actually be able to monitor and adjust those algorithms to learn model, to learn how to do it. So I don't think so. What it will do is that it will require us not to be lazy and do more homework and be more effective. And actually, in my opinion, it makes us a better people. Yeah, because we advance in our knowledge. And then the last bit that is not just limited to financing, what I also wanted to add is the issue of collaboration. Yeah, collaboration. Because let's say everybody has an obligation to give a voice or an action towards this climate issue, because we are all contributing, though some are contributing more than others, but we are on the same planet. We need not to point fingers like, okay, you are contributing more than I am, but we need to talk about how my solution are we contributing to having this issue of climate change. So that way, for example, OSM can open discussion with Maxa to get now almost up to date images on humanitarian grounds, not selling. So that way, there will be also playing a kind of a corporate social responsibility. It's kind of a moral issue towards this thing that is consuming all of us. Because if you have up-to-date data, you keep it to yourself. This climate is consuming all of us. So I think we need to go in that direction also, so that we explore, reduce the need for finance, but we cannot assume that, because we will need that eventually. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I hear you both. So you're coming from financing, from supporting volunteers to be able to contribute timely data. Then your own perspective is financing to be able to make sure we have the recent imagery to be able to contribute up to date information to the system. So then I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer this, but I think based on the idea of collaborating, definitely we need to have recent imagery. We need to have those data that we can use to map places. Do you have any idea based on your experience how we can achieve that kind of collaboration between the open mapping community and those organizations that have that satellite data? Do you have anything you can share?
Okay, so one thing I can share is that with Maxa, it has been particularly difficult, right? Especially in the past few months, that even, let's say, the old Maxa imagery we used to have access to is now not available to us anymore. So it has been very difficult. There have been several appeals to them, but until now they have not been really fruitful. If you see Eureka from MSF around, I think Doctors Without Borders, they seem to have, at least with Airbus, an ongoing collaboration that they can actually task a satellite and get very decent imagery of them. We have used that imagery in MapSwipe to crowdsource flood-affected regions in Madagascar, for instance. So there are a few examples on that. To be honest, I'm a bit pessimistic what is with next time, to be honest. So ideally, we've seen many cool examples from the OSM communities about using drones and UAVs. I get, from my perspective, it seems like investing in these technologies might help us to overcome the issue that satellite imagery is not available. But of course, drones will not solve everything, especially post-disaster. But preemptive mapping with UAVs, I think, is also something you have a lot of experience with, so maybe you can add to that.
Yeah. Do you have experience? Oh, you have the drone. So maybe you can also share the experience on how we can use drone as an alternative sometimes to satellite imagery for mapping activities.
Okay. Can share experience maybe from the project. I can share the experience maybe from the project that we have done with OpenStreetMap development Tanzania. I remember that time I was data enumerator from some process mappers. And I can say drone imagery helped us a lot to make sure that we have timely data for flooding zones. Because these people, they have used drone imagery and uploaded it to OSM to make sure that we have that timely data and with a lot of with high accuracy to make sure that we track everything on the way to, like for that particular flood zone. That's how drone technology can help. Like you can just capture images out there, analyzing them, make sure that they are good to go, and upload it to OSM that format that is accepted there, and you can just digitize that data by using drone imageries. That's all.
Okay, so I think this question is going to lead to the questions about the challenges of the open mapping movement. Maybe like from past experiences, if you can share some projects that you had, the challenges you faced, and maybe like were there failures and what lessons did you learn from course?
Okay, I will share some that I do remember that I've also faced during especially the data collection time, because sometimes we usually go on field in the field to make sure that we have that flood experience in each building and within the flooding zone. So most of the people that are living in those particular areas, they are not ready to give you the information. And the only reason is that they feel or they fear or they're scared that they will be evacuated to other areas that they don't want to go. And the other thing they'll be saying, like, we have been giving you information for years and years and we see no impact at that particular time. So for us, it was a big challenge because we were there for them to make sure that we have this data and we share with the decision makers. So we play our part very accurately and in the best way, but the decision makers are the ones who relate us. So to make sure that we solve that challenge, we always use community members, like we use that community science and engagement. Like we use the community members to make sure that we have that particular data at that particular time, because when you don't have the local people will be like resisting to give you that particular data. Okay, the other thing is the devices that we are using. We have been facing the challenge, especially in mapathons to map these flood vulnerable communities. Most of the people want to contribute, especially in universities, but they don't have access to computers, I can say. And some of them, like, they don't have even smartphones because of the maybe family condition and other stuff. So to make sure that we solve that challenge, or what I learned from them, we should have these devices to our mapping communities, maybe that will be helping those people who doesn't have those devices, to make sure that when we're having a mapathon or when we're having an activity, that we can share that devices and they'll be using to map that thing to make sure that the work goes faster. Because when we have those, okay, to solve that challenge, maybe we have been using academia's computers, like we have been collaborating with the Somalia University of Agriculture. They'll be like sharing their laboratories with us so that we can use the computers. But sometimes the work needs to go beyond that. What are we doing to make sure that goes beyond? So that's it.
Sure.
Maybe from the other side of the perspective, kind of, so as we are not directly involved with local communities, but for instance with German Red Cross or other organizations. So I think that addresses the finance problem here. So it's still really hard to convince people and show them the value of open mapping. And so it took us, I think, a long time with German Red Cross now to reach that state that not only the 2-3 people we work within German Red Cross, but also their bosses and their bosses, right? That they see the value in open mapping with communities. And I think this is something we need to advocate for and push for more. That's why it's good to have such a conference, so that we can also address this finance problem also from the other side, say that the big Red Cross organizations, other big humanitarian organizations, that they really get the value of open mapping. And this is hopefully might help you then to address some of the problems you might have with resources on the other end. So that's a lesson learned from me. We do a few successful projects with them, I guess. That financing them is so hard, and it's always last minute. Like, we would like to do an anticipatory action project in Pakistan sometime soon, and I think it just got confirmed that it gets confirmed 2 weeks ago, and then you start in 1 month. And I think that's hard, right? To actually proper plan projects. So yeah, that's one challenge that I'm aware of.
Okay, then I think I want to stay with you for like just 2 more minutes. Maybe you can share some insights into how local communities as well. Yeah, I would like to maybe collaborate with local organizations and local actors, how they can also be able to convince those local actors on the importance of open mapping. I think that may be helpful to get insight from you.
Yeah. So I think what is always useful is like really get your results visible. Yeah. So it's I think it's two-sided. We want to show for sure for every community what is the result or what is in there for you. They want to see the result, but also the other way around. So if we want to convince somebody at German Red Cross or another agency that this is a cool project, that result needs to reach quite a level, right? And we need to show them that doing it in 3 villages somewhere has a huge impact. And sometimes I think we're not really good at it. So the people who work on the project, they know that this is incredible. But they need to also be able to show their leaders kind of that this has an impact.
Yes.
Due to the mostly of the initiatives that we as a NGO we are actually facing the mostly of the implementation of the project, and this is specifically for the any task that is actively involved also survey. So the issue is readiness status. So as I have said, we are actively employing more people, more time as well as more funds, so as to create awareness, like having some angle of the workshops, to illustrate the importance as well as the impact of the project, as well as to have a certain package that somebody has to receive at the end of the project. So the issue is how people are ready to provide the level of information. So actively involving them at the cause of the task is implementations, from the design of the project, as well as involving them throughout the all of the phases of the project implementations. Therefore, that is mostly of the challenge. And then the other one is having collecting the prior informations at the level of the local government offices. So this also helps us to validate the data that is going to be collected at the level of the council. Therefore, local community inclusions plus having some kind of insertion reports, workshops, as well as in creating awareness and clearly including the local leaders into the whole the process of the data collection, as well as we introduce the project at the level of the rights, as well as including all of the actors within any kind of activities like ministries or local government authorities, as well as councils, and then this is also enforcing the really implementation and a successful in any kind of project that we as a visit have been proposed.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to direct the next question to Michael. So you mentioned something about local government ministries, and Michael, you also mentioned something about collaborating. So I want, and I know that for us to be able to have more impact, especially when we use open data and open mapping investments and this climate conversations, we need to have the buy-in of people at the national, the local, the institution, and the ministries that we have here. So what do you think we can do to strengthen those type of collaborations between the open mapping community and the institutions?
Okay, before I come to that question, I think I want to pick from the drone issues, and I think that is something that we also consider from Somalia, and we have already like two, so we are looking for that the drone with the light I think it with the sensor, so that we can be able to also capture high resolution EEMs, the elevation data set, that can be able to help us do now the modeling, the flood modeling, and this. So I think that's somewhere where I think the future is, and the issue there is the data quality, capturing data when you want it. And now we will not be dealing with this issue of temporal resolution. Can you imagine a flood is happening? You're waiting for 6 days. You say, okay, is it there? Did the image come? I think it's a bit frustrating. So I think that kind of technology. When we come to the issue of collaboration, local government institution is always policy. It starts there. Policy, then now that will be guiding institutional framework. You've got to adopt this. And for you to be able to achieve that, they need some convincing. Yeah, everything around the globe is people talking to each other. They should understand why they are instituting such a policy. Otherwise, even yourself, if someone came to you that because they do not understand, you will not commit any financing to us. So I think we need to be more clear as a mapping community, more simple, yeah, like how we communicate. They say simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. That is Leonardo da Vinci. Yes, so somehow the tech, and one of them, we get lost in the glory of technology. So we speak about things that people don't get. So can we find social experts, bring them among us to break down the very technical language into simple, understandable language to the common policy maker, so that they understand what we do. And one of the demonstrations, for example, the case scenario is like what the FAO has done using the data that we want recently. So that one can be a showcase to say, okay, look, using this data, we were able to be able to project the potential impact. And then we were able to do a post-disaster estimation on how much it will cost to be able to, these guys to be able to come back to their normal life. And then we are going to that extent and saying, okay, can we talk about the resilience? And can we talk about adaptation of this planet? All these things, I don't think we'll end. I don't think, though we have an ambitious goal, if you look at the Paris Agreement, the 1.5 degree, that's very ambitious, but all of us should work towards that, and it starts here. So the bottom line is that we should convince the world that everything starts with data, and we are the people who are producing the data. Okay?
Okay, thank you so much, Michael, for that contribution. Ben, do you have anything to say?
I think it's perfect.
Okay, so the final question that I want everyone to answer is, we've mentioned a lot, spoken about technology, spoken about different use cases, the impacts, failures, the challenges. So the last question is, so when we talk about climate, and we hear that, people who are closer to this climate, they don't have the resources. They don't even know that, they don't understand the problem that are facing them. So how can we as an open community kind of bring those messages closer to them? How can we also support them to be able to, so that they are also able to understand, what is going to happen to them and what challenges that, or what's the climate effect is going to be on them? Is it technical? Do we need to build them technically as well? Do they need to be able to also contribute data like we do? Or do they also just need the awareness just so that they are sure? Do they need to be taught how to build solutions to be able to adapt to some of those climate issues? So, yeah, as the final word from all of the parents.
That's the conversation that we have held, I think, in one of the protocols and discussion about, okay, we have been in community, kind of a tech-savvy community at this level where you interact with the computer, but they are the front line. Sometimes back they were being referred to as last line, but it changed now. These are communities that are actually bearing the brunt of this disaster when they happen. So how much contribution they need to do that? So we need to find a way of harnessing that information well in time. And I'll just give a case of how, for example, we do it at the FAO Somalia, is that first we have installed hydrogen stations across Somalia, should be around in the tune of 109 hydrogen stations that include river levels and also weather station, both automatic and manual. And we have readers of this information, for example, from management, so they send information. And then those readers also, they play the role of, let's say, if an image is not there for us to see from the disaster is happening, they will send pictures, geotagged photos, say, okay, something is happening here, there's need help. And also, we have, FAO has a call center where people can actually relay information. They say, okay, here we are at risk, we are under flood, can you bring that? You see? So that's how, for example, as FAO and Sweden, we are trying to get the use of feedback. And then us going back the other side is that we don't just do an email alert. We do an SMS alert, and then we do a radio alert. Yeah, so you see, a radio is something that is available. So in other words, what I'm saying is that let's look at those technologies that are simple enough and accessible more by the local people to be able to first receive information about the warning and ability to respond. Is it true what you're saying? Otherwise, we cannot continue as a mapping community and people dealing with this issue of climate to look at those communities, people who just need help. Yeah, I think they are the first people who should be able to see where they want to be helped. Someone said here in the morning that you can build a good house for someone and they didn't want it. So how do we find a way of getting that? Because, okay, at this point in time, I just need to survive. I don't need a house. You see, so that's kind of.
Thank you. So, 30 seconds. 30 seconds, yeah.
I can say like we should be having a media. Maybe we should hold these social medias, especially for we can set the television because most of the people nowadays they use social medias. So we can share these results maybe for these famous social media accounts, maybe for and the television, so that the local people that don't understand the technical language can be aware of. For example, I'm in the flood zone, and I don't know where can I be, where the safe place that I can be during the flooding. So when you share these informations, maybe with these peoples, a lot of people understand. They will share the information with the other fellows in the communities. So before the disaster starts, make sure they reduce the impact. They will shift before that thing happened to that particular time. I guess that is my bank.
Thank you.
Well, I have a different community in mind. I think as the open mapping community, we are really strong in disaster risk reduction and humanitarian aid. I'm not sure how much we already reach out to climate scientists. And that's a huge movement, and many people are really motivated to do something there. And I think maybe as an open mapping community, we can do more. Like, I'm not sure if there's somebody from the open mapping community at the COP at the moment, right? But there should be somebody. And at the same also in more local levels.
Yeah, so I will rely on the any science. Like I know that most of the regions or areas there are a local agents that is responsible to control as well as monitoring the issue of the disaster risk as well as any kind of the natural calamities that might happen in those areas. So still relying on the issue of the early warning systems by using the local communities, and as I have shared, there is some of the committees from the local administrative units that has been founded and created to provide the information that are related with the disaster and the rescue. And also dissemination of from text and the information from the administrative level. So still recommending this as well as to have an additional awareness on the using of the already existing data that actually I'm sure will have a potential impact in these affected areas. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a very nice time. Thank you all for contributing and enjoying this conversation. So we'll head out for lunch now. And then we still have some other sessions that will happen. So if you're interested in joining the open humanitarian session, you can come back to the auditorium. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Yeah, sure.
C'est un jeune passé. Who is that? Auditorium, Geoffrey. He's going to.
Yeah, we've done. Thank you for
You're able to talk, you're able to see video.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.